familiar faces on this Earth Day. Welcome, a sunny, beautiful Earth Day here in Cleveland. I've really enjoyed this day today. I want to officially welcome you all to our second State of the Environment event, sponsored by the Ohio Environmental Council. Good evening, I'm Carol Kaufman. I'm the Chief Executive Officer for the Ohio Environmental Council. And I'm just going to give you a brief lay of the land, tell you about the OEC very briefly, and then I'm going to hand things off to my colleague, Brian Siggers, for the rest of the evening's program. Many of you may be familiar with the OEC, but if you are not, we are the state's oldest and largest environmental advocacy organization. The OEC was actually formed in Northeast Ohio 56 years ago by ordinary volunteer Ohioans who were concerned about the state of our air and land and water in the Buckeye State. And many of you may know that there was a legacy of a lack of care for our rivers, our lake, our Great Lake, and that really galvanized this group of Ohioans, just like you and I, to come together and form the OEC. And we've been pressing for change and protection of our natural resources ever since. Our vision is a clean and healthy Ohio where our democracy empowers all communities to thrive in harmony with the environment. And that vision has never been more necessary. We are living in challenging times, times of uncertainty, and times when it's really important that we continue to lean into our values and really take the next right step in front of us as we navigate these times together. The OEC has a staff that stretches across the state. We are headquartered in Columbus, but we also have strong ties to Cleveland to this day, including a Cleveland Metro advocacy program. We focus on issues at the local, state, and federal level related to clean energy and climate, vibrant public lands, clean and safe drinking water, and natural resources protection, and also ensuring we have a functioning democracy and vibrant civic space. So I'll leave you with a couple of thoughts. We are living in challenging times, but we are still making progress together. And I think a lot, every day I wake up and I think about making sure that I'm living out my values and staying true to the values of my organization. We want to act with integrity. We want to be resilient. We want to build community through events like we're having here today together. And we also want to celebrate. We want to have joy. So when we have wins and we see progress, we want to celebrate together. So I encourage you to keep those things at the forefront as you navigate these times with us. And then a quote from Martin Luther King Jr. that I've been thinking a lot about the last couple of weeks that I'll leave you with is, "The time is always right to do what is right." All right, Brian, I'm handing things off to you.
Thank you very much, Carol. And good evening, everybody. And happy Earth Day. Thank you. I'm Brian Siggers, and I want to thank you all for being here tonight for our second annual State of the Environment event. I'm proud to serve as the Cleveland Metro Advocacy Director for the Ohio Environmental Council, and I also have the privilege to help lead the Cleveland Environmental Advocacy Coalition. This coalition came together just before the last mayoral election to center community voices and reimagine a more just, sustainable future for our city. It is powered by the leadership and organizations and advocates, and many of them are in this room here tonight. And if you're a member of the Cleveland Environmental Advocacy Coalition, can you just stand for a moment, just be recognized? Thank you all for all the work that you do. This year's the theme is Equity in Action, centering justice, access, and voice in Cleveland's green future. Because when we talk about the environment, we're not only talking about trees and emissions, we're also talking about people. We're talking about whether every neighborhood has clean air, safe streets, or access to parks, and the power to shape decisions that impact daily lives. And in tonight's panel, we'll discuss the Access for All in Cleveland's environmental and transportation future while exploring how we can make sure that everyone feels seen, supported, and included in the progress that we're making across the city. So we're honored tonight to be joined by some phenomenal panelists. Our first panelist is Mayor Justin M. Bibb, who has placed equity at the center of his administration's work and represents the city of Cleveland nationally as a co-chair for America's All In. Mayor Bibb, thank you for being here today. Next, we have Ebony Hood, the co-founder of SIAD, who is challenging the narratives around who outdoor spaces are for and building belonging from the ground up. Ebony Hood, thank you for being here with us today. And we also have Jacob Van Sickle, Executive Director of Bike Cleveland, who is working to make our streets safer, our neighborhoods more connected, and access more equitable for everyone, no matter how they move across the city. Jacob, thank you for being here tonight. I'm excited to see what we'll hear tonight, and I'm more excited about what we'll do after. So let's get started. Everyone's mics good? All right, perfect. So to frame the conversation tonight, Mayor Bibb, I want to start with you. What environmental challenges or opportunities do you see in the communities you serve that may not be visible to those in positions of power?
Well, first of all, I want to just thank Brian and the OEC for their partnership over the last 4 years, nearly 4 years since I've been honored and blessed to be the mayor of my hometown. I remember all the forums we had in 2021. And the OEC Forum, I think, for me, was an enlightening opportunity for me to really learn more about the importance of local climate action and what it means for a legacy American city like Cleveland, who has a long, storied history of being at the vanguard of climate and environmental justice. It's funny that we're starting off with this question, especially on this special Earth Day, as we reflect on where we are as a nation. It has been a chaotic nearly 90 plus days since we have gotten a new president at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. And what's so striking is while my stress levels have gone up and down like crazy over the last 90 days, because before Donald Trump took the White House again, we had predictability and a good partner in DC, who cared about the environment, who believed in real science, who believed in investing in cities like Cleveland. And now we're back on the defensive, making the case again on why addressing and investing to address climate change is an issue of moral responsibility in this moment right now. But I'm more optimistic than I've ever been before. Because the burden of this moment is back into the hands of mayors, whether it's in Cleveland or Tulsa or Nashville or New York City. Mayors have always been at the front lines of the challenges, but also at the front lines of the solution. Today we released our updated climate action plan, and it's a damn good plan because it's actionable, achievable, with real targets, that's focused on people with the real lens around equity and inclusion. And yes, we believe in diversity, equity, and inclusion in the great city of Cleveland, Ohio. And so, if anything, I think it's emboldened me, it's emboldened my staff, I know it's emboldened City Councilman. Thank you, Councilman Starr, for being here today. And I think now more than ever, we're gonna show the nation that Cleveland is a place where America can see how addressing climate change can be realized once and for all.
Thank you very much, Mayor Bibb. Ebony?
I'll weigh in. Thank you for framing that so nicely because, we talked about leadership, people in power, I would say this, hang up your job and, you go home for the night and do not return if you do not see the problems that exist, in our city. And I just mean that from the bottom of my heart. So where we have Mayor Bibb, and I'm so happy for his national presence, where I'm like, yes, that's my mayor. You know, it's things that you can be excited about because he is aware, but not everyone is, unfortunately. And a lot of times I do question and say, how in the heck are they leading or in so-called positions, or, you know, they have power and privilege to decide policy in dollars? It's frightening. It really is frightening because a lot of people have no business in their leadership roles. And I can call a name, I'm teasing. but I think we know, you know, again, you can just look around. You can look around the city and kind of gauge where issues are.
Thank you, Ebony. Jacob?
I'll just start too by thanking Brian and the OEC for pulling us all together. And it's a privilege to be up here with Ebony and Mayor Bibb, two people doing really great work in the community, obviously. I think from Bike Cleveland's perspective, you know, we see environmental challenges that often go undernoticed, primarily in underserved communities. You know, these communities frequently bear the brunt and disproportionate exposure to poor air quality, to higher amounts of traffic crashes and fatalities and serious injuries in their communities. And these things are really largely related to poor street design that only endangers people. But it can also be a way to look forward, you know? Our solutions really rely on the power, and residents consistently express the need for safer streets, for calmer traffic. And I think that's where we as a community can build power and build support to support the city and the mayor, to really tell them, but also tell the federal government that these investments are important for our community. They're important for ensuring that, you know, our kids can get to school safely, you know, that our seniors can get to the grocery store or the library safely. So I think it's those kind of invisible things, you know, the things we take advantage of every day, you know, being able to hop in my car and drive to the grocery store. Not everybody has that luxury, and I think a lot of times people in power don't see that. And I think that's really where the rubber meets the road and why we really need to make our community safer for everybody.
Thank you very much, Jacob. Thank you all for that first answer. I want to talk a little bit about environmental justice and community leadership. First question, I'm going to go back to you, Mayor Bibb. As Cleveland implements its new Parks and Recreation Plan, what specific recommendations would you make to ensure environmental benefits are equitably distributed across the city?
Thank you. Well, one of the, I guess, challenges we have as a legacy American city, as I mentioned in my earlier comments, is we have a large footprint as a city in terms of our parks and rec center infrastructure. You know, we were once the 5th largest city in the country at the height of America's first industrial revolution in the 1900s. And, you know, since the inception of our city, we have never done a comprehensive master plan of all of our parks and our rec centers. So we work very closely with City Council. And through that master plan process, we now have some tangible ideas on how to center our new parks and rec center footprint on our residents. So for example, we want to make sure that every park and every rec center is well programmed, but also well lit. And it has the right aesthetic design that addresses the environment and challenges that we have with our environment, especially around air quality concerns. One of the other issues we had is we never really funded our division of parks and recreation. It got buried at the bottom of our public works department for over a decade. And one of the big recommendations I got from OEC during the 2021 campaign was creating a separate department of parks and rec. We did it. We got it done. And I poached the Parks and Rec director from Shaker Heights. Sorry, Mayor Weiss. Alex, is she here? Wave. She's awesome. She's kicking butt. Shameless plug. We still need to hire lifeguards. So join us this summer. Be a lifeguard. We're going to pay you well. It's a great start to a great career for the city of Cleveland. All those things, I think, go a long way to addressing our goals. The other thing I would say is we received some federal funding to convert many of our rec centers into resilient centers. You know, when we have hot days, I know it's about to get hot real quick here, a lot of our residents, especially our seniors, they ain't got AC. And while my grandmama had AC back in the day, she never used it because she was scared about that bill. So we want to make our rec centers places for our seniors and young people to get AC, to play spades, to play pickup basketball in the summertime. Or when we have a long winter like we had this year, make sure that our rec centers are resilient places for our residents, maybe for our unsheltered brothers and sisters as well too. And so we can't just look at our parks and rec centers as places for activities. These are places for community building, and having a climate-centric focus around that is a big part of what we're trying to do as a city.
Thank you very much, Mayor Bibb. And you know, when we talk about outdoor spaces and access to parks, we can't, we have to think about SIAD. So my next question, SIAD's mission challenges long-standing assumptions about whom outdoor spaces are designed for and who feels safe using them. From your perspective, Ebony, what changes, whether in policies, city planning, or public perception, are the most important to creating truly inclusive spaces in Cleveland?
Well, one of the things that we want to talk about the history of Cleveland, we know that we are completely segregated. So when we say inclusive, I'm like, so now that means we have to leave our neighborhoods to kind of make an inclusive space. Otherwise, you can just go to your local parks, and have at it. So when I look at our region, we have our city parks, our metro parks, our national park, and the second you step outside of Cleveland, it's no longer inclusive. And I'm just saying that to say, because we all come from our segregated neighborhoods, we go to our parks that are all like us. So when we think about the idea of starting to change that, there are things in place. There's all type of, here are ideas, there's councils. We have our youth at SIAD. Their voice is so powerful and so strong. But I promise you all, I rarely go into a business meeting and see youth there ever, that kind of stuff. So my dream for our region would be to utilize our future voices, the people that's gonna be doing the work, and then that way we won't have ignorant leadership grow up into these positions that are clueless to it. Because when we do our work, we're outside. I tell SIAD, people will say, where's your office? We don't have one. It's like we're outside all the time. So our youth see that. They see it. They know what it feels like. They know what it feels like when they're at the city park. They know what it feels like when they step foot into a national park, and the grave difference between that and the segregated Cleveland metro parks even. So I would say that we need to empower youth voice in these spaces. Our adults are not doing a great job at that, and we have to get better. So I would love to see advisory councils built with community in mind, because just as much as folks in suits are around tables, neither is community there. So it's like, what are we doing wrong here? We're leaving out voices that can weigh in.
Thank you. And then also, just for those who may not be aware, can you tell us what SIAD stands for?
Oh, okay, so our government name, you all. Our government name is See You at the Top. So we used our acronym for years, SIAD. So we officially just branded ourselves as SIAD. But our government name officially is See You at the Top. My mom's inspiration is see us at the top of our communities, at the top of our class, at the top of our workplaces. So that's where that all came from. And then locally on the Hill, we started our organization on the ski season. So it'd be like, we'll see you at the top, when you take the lift up there. So yes.
Thank you for that. Thank you. And then Jacob, for those who may not be familiar, can you briefly share what Bike Cleveland is, what your core mission is, and how your organization works to improve mobility, safety, and access for all Cleveland residents?
Yeah, so Bike Cleveland, we're a membership-based organization representing over 2,000 members across the region. And our core mission is to build and advocate for livable communities by promoting sustainable transportation and improving mobility options and advocating for safe streets for all road users. We do this through a combination of activities. A key piece is through grassroots advocacy building and organizing, and we do these through our neighborhood Better Street committees, right now representing 9 neighborhoods across the city of Cleveland of residents that come to these meetings with ideas, and we work to help them bring them to life, whether they be tactical urbanism like painting bump outs to calm traffic at a very dangerous intersection, whether it be organizing neighborhood bike rides or fix-a-thons. These are really residents giving ideas that we can help them bring to life for folks in their community. So we work directly with the public, with public officials and partner organizations to really redesign and advocate for safe streets and accessibility. We push for policies and legislation that makes bicycling easier and safer and helps to reduce traffic violence. And we host a number of education programs ranging from programs in schools all the way up to seniors with the Department of Aging to help kind of grow our community, but help support people that want to get out and ride a bike for their health, for their safety, or for the environment.
Thank you. Thank you, and thank you all for the work you do. Mayor Bibb, I want to come back to you for a moment. How is the city building infrastructure, formal or informal, to ensure community organizations, youth leaders, and neighborhood residents are not just consulted, but co-creators in environmental initiatives?
Yeah, one of my most important North Stars in this work as a public servant is making sure that we ground this work in the voices of people, regardless if it's a senior citizen living in the Southeast Side or a young junior or senior at John Marshall High School. Just earlier today, I had a group of John Marshall High School students at City Hall because they've been working with the Western Reserve Land Conservancy on a youth outdoor Bill of Rights, right? How do our youth navigate public spaces where they feel safe, where they feel heard, where they feel connected? If it passes council, I'm going to sign the resolution. But you had a group of high school kids say, we want a voice in how government is operating in our city. We're also working very closely with our team at City Hall as we've navigated the master plan and rec center process. We are going to have a brand new community engagement tool for folks to really understand how do we get the right feedback on what's working with our parks and rec centers, what's not working, and how do we make sure that feedback is a big part of how we do capital improvement planning across our entire footprint as a city. And then Director O'Keefe and her team keeps me in meetings all the time with many folks in this room about what's working, what's not working, and how do we get better. And I listen to the feedback. Jacob will tell you, I look at every tweet he has, and I'll tell Callie, hey, is this right? What needs to be fixed? And I think making sure that we stay proximate to what's happening in our neighborhoods is a big part of this work. The worst days I have at City Hall is when I'm in the office all the time, right? I love being in community. I love knocking doors. I love going on bike rides. I love just being out with folk. And I know my cabinet enjoys that. And so we've tried to do everything we can to really center not just my time as mayor, but our leadership team's time and being grounded in community to really address some of these issues and getting feedback on what's working and what's not working.
Thank you very much, Mayor. At this point, I want to transition into transportation and mobility. And Mayor, we'll start with you one more time.
You gotta stop starting with me, man. You gotta go to Jacob.
This is the last time I promise. Last time I promise. In April of this year, the city adopted its first mobility plan since 2007 with a commitment to build 50 miles of low-stress bike infrastructure over the next 3 years. How much funding does your administration plan to commit to the implementation of Cleveland Moves, and how are you increasing internal capacity to reach that goal?
Well, shout out to Sarah Davis in the back who's helped leading that plan. Sarah, say hello. Give her a big round of applause. We stole her from Boston, isn't that right? And she's been off to a fantastic start. She worked very closely with my former senior advisor on transit and mobility, Callie Mersman, who is now our brand new planning director. And I think the elevation of Callie to be the planning director really shows you our commitment as an administration on prioritizing transit and mobility, multimodal options in our city. In this year's budget, we allocated significant funding for the new 5-year plan around mobility for the city. I'm excited about the announcement we made with Jacob several weeks ago and his team around making sure we expand our protected bike network over the next 5 years to 50 more miles of protected bike lanes across the city. It's just a start, right? It's just a start, but it's an important start because we were decades behind, folks. Decades behind. Excited to break ground on the Midway project. And despite all the craziness from the St. Patrick's Day Parade conversations, we are going to build that damn Midway because our residents deserve it. And it's important that we make these investments because in any city across the country, cities that are winning right now are cities that have invested in this kind of infrastructure. It's not just great for the environment, but it's good for our economy. It's good for jobs. It's good for making Cleveland an attractive place that can compete with Chicago, DC, New York, LA. That's what this is all about. And so, we made a lot of good progress, still a lot more work to do. And we're still trying to get some federal investment from this work, but that's why it's important for the activists in this room to keep advocating about why these investments are important for cities like Cleveland.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Mayor, no, I'm just kidding. Jacob, I want to go to you for a moment. So given upcoming changes to corridors like Superior, Lorraine, and West 25th, how do you plan to balance business concerns around loss of on-street parking with the city's priorities to become a 15-minute city?
Yeah, I always tell people Cleveland doesn't have a parking problem. They have a parking allocation problem. We certainly understand that major changes to corridors can cause some concern among business owners, especially around on-street parking. Which I also like to note, the street's a public space, to be able to carve out, 8 feet of a roadway for a private business to use is it's a good amenity if you can use it, but if that space can be utilized in more important ways to improve safety on the street and to encourage more people to visit businesses, that's a good thing. We really see these projects as a way for the streets and the business districts to serve everyone. The goal of becoming a 15-minute city means neighborhoods where people can easily bike or walk or use public transit to get to their destination. And this vision really supports small businesses in increasing foot traffic and bike traffic, making commercial corridors more vibrant, more people-friendly. And studies show that people biking and walking over the course of time spend more money in the local economy than somebody that's just driving through. And specifically on Lorraine Avenue, where we're hearing a lot of concerns around on-street parking, despite parking studies showing that there isn't a concern around the lack of parking. Don't tell anybody that I did this, but a couple weekends ago, I drove to go to Juneberry with my family.
I have yet to be able to get a reservation there, by the way.
Oh yeah, it's good. Go on a weekday when it's not slammed. But it was slammed. And we were so hungry, we were walking back to the car and we stopped at Goldie's to buy a donut. So, and that was because we had to park a couple blocks down the way and walk there. So absent, if we would have parked right in front of Juneberry, we would have got out of the car and got back in and left. But because we had to walk a little bit in the neighborhood, we made some additional investment in the neighborhood. So there's my own personal story around that.
No, thank you. And Jacob, we'll go back to you one more time. How do you see investment in, and you guys were very involved in completing green streets. How do you see investment in complete streets contributing to Cleveland's economic growth, particularly in terms of attracting new businesses and supporting local jobs and access to jobs?
Yeah, I think if you if you look at this is at the individual level, and you think about how much Cleveland residents spend on housing and on transportation combined, anything we can do to reduce that percentage is more money spent locally here in the economy. So by building streets that make it safe and comfortable for, somebody that doesn't bike now, but might if their destination was easily accessible with a safe, stress-free bikeway, you're keeping that money from them spending it on gas or car insurance or a car payment and investing it local in the economy. More than 25% of Clevelanders don't have access to a car. In some neighborhoods, that percentage is 39%, So if we have streets surrounding where these people live that are only serving people in cars, are we really serving their needs to be able to get to the doctor appointment, to get to the hospital, to get, to get to school, to do whatever they got to do? So for us, complete streets, there's an economic argument for it. Bike projects create more jobs than a typical highway project. But for me, it's really at the individual level, and how am I able to keep as much of my money locally in the economy by not driving places because I can do other modes comfortably and safely.
Thank you very much, Jacob. Mayor, do you want to touch on that?
You get it?
Thank you. All right. I want to transition to sustainability and accountability. This question's for all. We'll start with you, Ebony. A persistent challenge for environmental progress in Cleveland is that residents often don't know how to stay informed about initiatives or hold decision makers accountable. How would the city utilize platforms like the Cleveland Environmental Advocacy Coalition website or create a centralized hub where residents can track environmental commitments, connect with park and green space organizations, and meaningfully engage with ongoing projects?
Okay. That's a great question. I think we have a number of solutions for that. You know, when we hit the pandemic, that's when we talked a lot about the digital divide in our city, but there's been a ton of investment in that. Even though there are still dead zones all over the place, there's been a ton of investment in our digital divide. So it's more likely that you can find someone with a phone that can even access free Wi-Fi to stay updated. And I'm saying that to say because accountability has been one of these core issues where things just don't get done. You know, and I can just state that, you know, you were talking about, you know, we're decades behind. So I just think back to my childhood. Now I'm very much an old adult. And I'm like, we are decades behind because now I'm that old. So I'm just like, wow, we just had years of disinvestment. But I think when we have like, you know, our coalition working on behalf, someone else raised up, well, how do we communicate? Well, guess what? I attend my local, you know, street club meetings and our neighborhood councils. Everybody knows Ms. Jenkins. Everyone knows, you know, Robert so-and-so who's always there. Those are a means for communication. We have those leaders, they're built in, and all we have to do is just send out a circuit, and I promise you all it works gloriously. So if we can connect to like a website, we have our city site, we have something that can do like a dashboard effect about how far are we along or where's the progress, we can really begin to build change with that. Because all it takes is just a handful of leaders. Like, I can tell you this cell phone, I could just, like, Julian, what have you heard? You know, like, quickly, like he's in the room now, and I'm looking at him, but literally that's how fast we can show accountability in our city just from a few phone calls of grassroots leaders that are out here. Much harder to reach the mayor, but locally, you know, the grassroots folks, we are here and we are well connected. And we do side eyes at projects, all those things. So it doesn't take a whole lot to build accountability with the existing leaders that are outside of City Hall. Like when the mayor came on, I just said, we're an extension of your team. You know, we are an extension of your team. And I mean that for all of City Hall and the council as well. Like, we're here. You know, we love our city, so we want to work for our city. So there are some real easy, tangible ways to stay connected to push accountability along.
Thank you very much, Ebony. Mayor Bibb, same question to you regarding centralized hubs, or how can community members see like live updates or be really connected to your administration, the work you're doing?
Well, one of the really exciting things we did since taking office was launch the city's first ever open data portal through our new Office of Urban Analytics and Innovation. And Director Crow, working with Director O'Keefe and that team, we intend to have a dashboard online tracking our ability to meet our goals and targets around our climate action plan. So that's going to be a big part of how we hold ourselves accountable and be transparent on what's working, what's not working, and how we're doing. I would also say this, and Ebony alluded to this, you know, unlike other elected officials across the country, we hold town halls in Cleveland, right? We're not afraid to get cussed out. I get cussed out a lot. We're not afraid to get hard questions, and you know, make sure we're showing up to town halls. But I would also say we need not just everybody who comes to every town hall or council meeting to show up to those town halls or council meetings. We need everybody in the neighborhood or community to come to those conversations. And we need to show up in different places, right? So I know my schedule is crazy, but when I do the bike rides across town, that's a good way to get feedback, right? I'm seeing abandoned buildings, I'm seeing potholes, I'm seeing where we need to get better on street infrastructure improvements. All those things are a big part of how we're trying to hold ourselves accountable, but also working with organizations like the OEC are very helpful. I will tell you that, and Director O'Keefe knows this very well, literally in our first meeting after she got hired, I went to her office, I gave her the OEC policy toolkit from 2021. I says, go get all of this done as quickly as you can. Isn't that correct? Yes, that's exactly what we did, right? And so having folks like you give us the keys, like, what do you want us to get done? What makes sense? It gives us the right vision and framework to make sure we're meeting the moment for you.
Thank you very much, Mayor Bibb. Jacob?
I don't know if I have much to add on this question, except I mentioned our Better Street committees, and Ebony really mentioned this growth and digital access and being able to spread the work quickly. But nothing goes beyond like being in a room with somebody and ideating and coming up with solutions that you see in your own community. And I feel like those types of meetings, and even at town halls, are great opportunities to kind of connect and build community. And I think the other thing I'll note in terms of like accountability for these types, like the OEC platform or the Cleveland Moves plan or the Parks and Rec plan, to really get residents engaged, it really is going to take an amount of building trust. As Mayor Bibb said, we're decades behind, but we're decades behind because the city's gone to community after community with a plan and an idea and a plan and idea, and they just sit on shelves, and they collect dust. And I think to really get community re-engaged, and I give the city credit, they're doing a great job. I was on a Mayor's Office Capital Project engagement session, and tons of people there were screaming how great the Parks and Rec plan development process was. And I think that's a good starting point to kind of start to build that trust. Same with Cleveland Moves. So now we just need to see kind of where those plans start to hit the ground. And I think that will help bring more people in to be engaged in the work that we're all doing and we all want to see get advanced.
Thank you very much, Jacob. Mayor, I have one more question for you. I know you have to run, but I want to talk about youth because I see a lot of young people here today. And I just want to know, has your administration considered developing a formal civic service program for Cleveland youth similar to national service models but focused locally where young people could work directly with the city departments on environmental initiatives while developing career skills and leadership capacity?
Yeah, we have great partnerships with organizations like YLU. They have a direct jobs track for youth to be employed in jobs around the built environment. Excited about the investments we've made with Cleveland Builds, training young people in our community for the jobs of the future in the green economy. I was reading the plan today, and hopefully I don't get this wrong, Director O'Keefe, but we believe through our climate action plan, roughly 1,200 jobs a year can be created in Cleveland, focused on building good green jobs in our city. I want young people to have access to those jobs. The other thing that I'm excited about that we did, and just shows you the juxtaposition of how we're getting stuff done and working to deliver for residents in Cleveland despite the federal chaos in DC. The same day that the president signed an executive order to dismantle the Department of Education, which, if this happens, would create a $40 million cut to Cleveland. $40 million. That means less money for free and reduced lunch, less money for special ed, less money for Pell Grants for kids to go to a good high school, good college. A massive, massive cut to our city. The same day we saw that executive order from the president, our administration, we signed an executive order to create the first ever children's cabinet at the city of Cleveland. All focused on how from every department, from Director O'Keefe's department in sustainability and climate justice to Director Nichols' department in Parks and Rec, how is every department focused on helping young people in our city, right? So we have to build a city for the next generation, and that's a big part of what our administration, working with City Council, is really trying to do every day.
Thank you very much, Mayor Bibb. Can we give it a round of
Thank
applause
you,
for
y'all.
Mayor Bibb, please?
Thank you.
Thank you very much for being here, Mayor Bibb. Thank you. And I have one final question for our panelists here. A slightly shameless plug. I want to know, what would be your #1 selling point on convincing people to get involved with the Cleveland Environmental Advocacy Coalition? And whoever wants to start can start.
Oh man, Ebony's answer is going to be so much better than mine. But I feel like, especially at Bike Cleveland, the work that we've accomplished is best accomplished with a coalition mindset. I think of when we worked with Coalition to pass the city's complete and green streets ordinance that got updated once Mayor Bibb was in office. Like that wouldn't have happened without support of the OEC and other organizations signing on to support. So I think it's a great way to, one, get connected with other folks like-minded, to learn about a lot of different topics that maybe you don't know about, but also to build support for work that you're doing that's like-minded with the other organizations.
Thank you, Jacob. Ebony?
Excellent answer. So yeah, I ditto a lot of that, and I would say for selfish reasons. So when people like me, when I show up, I'm always looking to see like what else is happening elsewhere. So I already know what my community is like, but if I get wind where I'm like, what? They got what done? And it went through what council? That kind of stuff. So for me, it's like a learning experience, and I would encourage everyone. Not only is it like networking opportunity to help improve our community, but it's kind of social, it's kind of fun. You have the meeting after the meeting where you have the conversations. So those are all incentives to like sign up, be a part of that council, and how they say, like, be the change you want to be, like that kind of stuff is, or the change you wish to see, all those different, whatever those little phrases are. The council will give you that place to do it, like I said, and then it's a fun social way to have at it. And like I said, secretly, I'm there trying to figure out, wait, what was on the agenda, that other thing? Because if you're not present, you just won't know. So I think that's excellent. But we'll have our platforms and our websites and dashboards to move along. But definitely, I would tell anyone, like, join up, sign up, we need help.
Thank you very much, Ebony. Ebony, Jacob, thank you guys very much for being here. Thank you all for attending as well. That concludes our panel. But before we transition, I want to call up Director O'Keefe to talk a little bit about the Climate Action Plan for the City of Cleveland. So can we please give a round of applause for Director O'Keefe?
Hi, everybody. Thank you for being here. So appreciate you all. And thinking about the call to action, in addition to signing up for Cleveland Environmental Advocacy Coalition, please visit all of the tables that are outside in the lobby. You probably passed them on your way in. They are about our Cleveland Climate Action Plan. This is the second update. The first Climate Action Plan was in 2013. Anybody a part of that? You want to raise your hand and show how long you've been committed to this? Oh, I see you. Thank you. 2018 update. Anybody a part of the 2018 update? That was my first. Hey, thank you. The 2025, I feel like almost everybody in this should raise their hand because we invited you here and we tried really hard to engage you. If we did not engage you, come talk to me after. All right? So we did engage over 150 stakeholders from 100 different organizations. 1,000 different Clevelanders, whether they're residents or workers, through surveys, co-created community sessions and conversations. A lot of them from being helped with CEAC members, so Cleveland Environmental Advocacy Coalition members helped us set those up. So thank you so much. What I am going to do next is introduce. So during the reception, there are tables outside. Please go and meet everybody out there. We have a Parks and Rec master plan out there. That's Jay in the back. He's from MoCap. We have North Coast Yard. That's the activation of the North Coast. You can learn more from Zoe. Anybody go on the walk today? Yes, okay, beautiful Earth Day, right? Great walk, nice, thank you. Bike Cleveland is gonna be there. You already heard from Jacob, but Cleveland Moves, Sarah Davis is also gonna be there. And then we have Riddall as well, and we're talking about our composting program and workforce development program, and then Cleveland Climate Action Plan. So what I would want to say is thank you to all of the Mayor's Office of Sustainability staff. We have Felina Selden, Resilient People, Mike Bean, Clean Energy, Warren, Built Environment, Anna for Nature-Based Solutions, Tim Kovac, who led the whole thing and got us really down to business the past 2 years. Thank you. Now we adopted Sarah Davis. Thank you very much. She was our clean transportation person for our climate action plan. And then we have Kathy Len, no longer with the Mayor's Office of Sustainability, however, retired and then immediately started working 5 days later for Riddall. So thank you, Kathy, for leading circular industry. So that's our local stakeholder, but I wanted to introduce next, we mentioned that Mayor Bibb is the co-chair for America is All In. That's not what's keeping us in the climate, in the Paris Agreement, but America is All In is gonna share a little bit more about their organization, and to do that more appropriately than me is Elizabeth Lean, the program director. She's gonna come up and talk about America is All In, who is helping to co-host this event coming up next. Thank you.
A couple people trying to escape, and It is not lost on me that I am the one standing between you and the amazing snacks standing outside, but I just wanted to take 1 minute to say thank you for lending us your mayor. Mayor Bibb does serve as a co-chair alongside Governor Newsom, Governor Pritzker, and Gina McCarthy as the leadership of America's All In. America's All In represents 2/3 of the US population and 3/4 of GDP. So when we hear about climate action faltering in the United States, we are the first ones to say, no, that is not true. 2/3 of the US population and 3/4 of GDP remain committed to climate action in the United States. So we are, what we do is we bring together governors, mayors, corporates, faith leaders, tribal leaders, healthcare institutions, higher ed, and others to really represent the economy and the US voice in a way that resonates. And so today, we spent the day at Rittal, thank you, and learned a lot about what's happening here in Cleveland. Spending time with you all gives us really the juice we need to keep going when things get a little bit tricky. So again, thank you all for this. Please enjoy the reception. And if you have any questions, come and chat with me or my colleagues afterwards.
Okay, I'm just coming up here to tell you guys you're free to go and actually enjoy the reception. And also to thank the other staff of the Mayor's Office of Sustainability, Assistant Director Anna Natarajan, Brittany Montgomery, our communications person, and public information officer, and all of the interns and everybody here who's ever been a part of the Mayor's Office of Sustainability. Thank you so much. We're keeping the climate justice. Enjoy the reception.